I'm now calling this meeting of the Gwinnett County Board of Registrations and Elections to order. I will entertain at the moment motion to approve the agenda that is before us. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Satterfield, second from Baldwin. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. We're now at opening remarks. I would like to, first, I'm going to identify everybody that's here. The time is 2:05. Board member Alice Olenek, Vice Chair Dr. John Mangano, Board member Ben Satterfield, Board member Beauty Baldwin, myself, Stephen Davis, Chairman of the Board. We have legal counsel, Van Stevens from Gwinnett County, Dick Carruthers outside legal counsel, and Tina Fleming is the Director of the Department of Community Services. Lynn Ledford may join us shortly. She's the Director of the Elections Division. Oh, Melanie, did I skip Melanie? I beg your pardon. Melanie Wilson, also with the Elected Department. Thank you. And those are the folks that are in attendance today. Opening remarks. I will say something here quickly, that I wanted to thank the staff for all the hard work that they've done. It's been long and tedious hours, and it looks like there's still some ahead. But they have worked through 17 and a half days of early voting at this center, including 2 Saturdays and a Sunday. But they've worked, had 12 days of early voting at satellite centers, including 2 Saturdays, and all those times were 7 to 7. That we had over 332,000 voters, which was almost equivalent to what we had during the presidential election. There was a turnout of over 63% here in Gwinnett County, which is phenomenal for a midterm election. And it's quite an accomplishment that the staff has accomplished what they did. Early voting went pretty smoothly. I think we had some delays on the first day and the last day, but at almost at all the early voting centers, there were not significant delays. We had, I would say, a handful of problematic precincts on election day, but out of 156 precincts, if we have less than 5%, usually in operations of elections, that's not bad. I will say that we will follow up on all the problems that occurred in those precincts, and we will investigate and try to improve our processes so that they don't occur again. And just a final note, our staff is professional. They have always acted in a way that is in accordance with the law as they understood it and in an unbiased fashion. And we have, I'm a Democrat, the Republicans up here, and we would all attest to that unanimously, that the staff has operated in that manner. I will say that voting is considered almost a second right in America. And our intent on this board is to provide unfettered, equitable, and welcoming access to that right. Now, we, unfortunately, due to the weight of many legal issues that have come upon us in the last 48 hours, lawsuits and information supplied to us, we will have to go into executive session, probably somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes at this time. We will go into another room. That executive session is not open to the public. It's because of the lawsuits that are involved with us. After that time, we will come back into session and deal with the new business that we have before us, and part of that is dealing with provisional ballots. So having said that, I will entertain a motion now to move into executive session. For pending litigation. Yes. Thank you. All right, we've had a motion. Mr. Satterfield, a second from Dr. Mangano. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're now moving into executive session at 2:10. I'm now calling back into open session, meeting with the Gwinnett County Board of Registrations and Elections. It is approximately 3:20. And before us under new business is the disposition of provisional ballots. At this point in time, the count has still undergo in the back as far as the ballots that we have to process. So I will take a motion to move it further down the agenda so we can proceed and take care of other business until the recommendation of the staff is before us.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move it to after committee reports.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've moved the disposition of provisional ballots. The next one was the disposition of absentee ballots. We had before us an order from Judge May in the Northern District Court of Georgia, who ruled that any ballots that absentee ballots that had been rejected because of birth year be counted. That process will take a couple of days to do. We have been given the acceptance of the ballot deadline. In other words, the certification deadline has been extended until we complete that process. We anticipate having another meeting to certify the votes at approximately 5 o'clock on Thursday to deal with those particular ballots. They will be added in to the totals that we have previous to that, and at that point in time, the Gwinnett County count of the votes in the 2018 general election should be total and complete and certified and uploaded to the Secretary of State. The counts that we will do today will just be the provisional ballots situation, not the judge's order. All right, the next section that we have to deal with, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it now.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, I move that we have a special call meeting on Thursday
All right,
at 5 o'clock for the disposition of the absentee ballots.
Second it.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Vice Chair. We'll have the meeting at 5 o'clock Thursday, as the motion says. The next item on the agenda for our consideration is board comments on the election. I left that as an open item on the agenda just in case any of the board members wanted to comment about anything good, bad, or indifferent in regards to the election. Now, it's still, basically, we're still in process, and it might be a little premature,
Yes.
but I put it, I put it on the agenda in case anybody wanted to say anything. Do any board members have anything pro or con or specific about the way the election was conducted?
Well, I will just let the other board members know. Steve and I already talked about, doing like an after-action review as we've done with comments and concerns and kind of addressing any issues that we've heard. So we'll be doing that as always, and then kind of presenting our findings.
As through the election committee.
Election committee report.
I did.
Mr. Chair, no
Yes.
comment on this at this time, since we're still dealing with the election. I have no comment.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So it's okay. Ben, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Second.
I think Dr. Mangano said second first. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the call for the special election, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The referendum for the MARTA issue has been approved.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, next before us is old business. And under that is usually, aside from other issues we may undertake, are our responses to previous public comments. Now, we had a number of them at the last meeting, and some of them have been researched, and some of them are going to require a little more research. But our Vice Chair, Dr. Mangano, has been very diligent the last several meetings in trying to record these and respond to them. We've interacted, but I'll leave it up to John to respond to the ones that he feels like he has closure on in regards to the particular questions.
Well, thank you. We had probably, I think there were probably about 20 questions from our last meeting that Steve and I kind of took questions from. Some were comments and some were questions. Out of the questions, most of them kind of related to the pending litigation that we're under right now, so we really have no comment on those to begin with. And a lot of those were asking for statistics and things that we really just don't have ready yet because we're still trying to finalize the election. And then there were some interesting kind of cultural awareness questions that we came up that I think kind of moving forward we've talked about with community outreach of reaching out and having some workshops to try to make us aware of some of these issues that are growing in the county. So nothing kind of definitive yet because we're trying to close out the election, but probably we'll have some statistics at our December or probably January meeting for those questions.
May I ask in particular, wasn't there a comment about, and I don't want to misspeak here, and if I do, I apologize, from a woman representing the Korean community about signatures not being a, how should we say, a high standard as we do in the United States, use it sort of as your final legal documentation. She said in that community, what seals or stamps used, and I thought it was a very interesting comment. And which would lead to the idea of signatures on ballots being somewhat of an unusual situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting.
No, that was neat. I was looking at that.
Yeah. Is there any other old business that needs to come before us at this time? All right, we'll move to committee reports. Are there any committee reports that need to come before us at the moment?
No.
Okay. We are down to, actually, we had moved the provisional ballots to this spot, but I think we're not ready yet, so what I would, with the will of the board, we'll just jump one down and then deal with the provisionals when they come in.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just vote to move the disposition to after public comments.
Okay.
Or until they're ready.
Till they're ready.
Until they're ready.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we shall do so. So now we're at the public comment section. And we have a sign-in sheet. Our standard procedure is to give 2 minutes to the commenters. If Ms. Olenek would help in the timing of that, however you guys work. I'm sorry, John, you said.
That's all right.
Okay. Okay. So we'll take the list one at a time. Alice, you've got the list. You want to call the folks?
Karuna, I'm sorry if I, Ramachandra?
Yes,
Ram?
right here.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yeah, this is fine,
Okay.
please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Karuna Ramachandran. I'm the Deputy Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to defending the civil rights of AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander, and Arab, Middle Eastern, Muslim, and South Asian communities here in Georgia, here in Gwinnett, and here in the Southeast. As part of our work, every year, every election, we conduct nonpartisan voter election protection. And we do that before, during, and after the election period. Now, because of that work, we have heard a number of issues that voters have faced, especially here in Gwinnett County, and our aim is to really share some of that today. You have already responded to some of that, which was our concern about absentee ballots being rejected because of date of birth being missing or signature mismatch. And so we do commend you to continue, we commend you for continuing to count those through Thursday, and we thank you for that. But additionally, we have faced many voters who had an issue with casting their provisional ballot. In many cases, that was their only option to vote, even if they were out of county. And in one particular case that you're going to hear about today from another voter is very interesting, where they had registered to vote in Gwinnett County. Their voter registration hadn't processed when they went. Okay, so they were told misinformation from the poll workers that they could vote provisionally, and that it would count. And so what we're asking, as you continue.
And they were registered out of county, you're saying?
They thought that they were registered in Gwinnett County. They came to, but they were not. They came to register here in Gwinnett, and were told that their provisional ballot would count. Now we're asking that as you continue to count provisional ballots, please consider counting those out-of-county provisional ballots as you would out of precinct ballots, and have them count towards the statewide election.
Thank you for your
Okay.
comment.
Thank you.
All right.
Number 2 is Ara Tang.
I was trying to get out of your way. You want me this way
Hi,
instead?
so my name is Ara Tang. I am a Georgia voter, and I am a college student who attends Bowdoin College out of state. I received my absentee ballot 2 days right before election, and so I decided to investigate to see if I was the only one who went through this, and I came to the realization that within the span of 48 hours, I was contacted by 40 voters who either received their votes 1 to 2 days before election day, on election day, or after election day. And these are people who have requested their ballots far in advance, as in July, August, and September. And they've called in multiple times, so we have documented of emails, of phone calls, and they have not received their ballots. And this is something that I would encourage to look into, because if I was able to accumulate 40 voters, what does that say for the rest of Georgia? And yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still around after the meeting, I'll call.
No, Fulton County, Gwinnett County, and other counties as well.
Number 3, Debbie Dooley.
I used to serve on the Gwinnett election board some time ago, and I just want you to know that I really appreciate everything you're doing. You have a lot of really hard workers. I trust you implicitly because, you know, I believe in the integrity of this election board and of this department. And I just want to thank you. You're put in a very tough decision. My concern is that I believe that all ballots, all votes cast legally by Georgia law should be counted. But that doesn't mean that if someone from out of a county came in and voted in Gwinnett County, voted provisional ballot, that's not legally cast vote according to Georgia law, and that should be thrown out. What some of these people, Team Abrams, is asking you to do, Team Abrams is asking you to do, excuse me for the disruption, she's been interrupting all the time, but what Team Abrams is asking you to do is to treat voters in 2018 differently than what voters in 2016 and 2014 were treated. They're asking you to hold voters here to a different standard. I know folks who made mistakes on the absentee ballot and their ballot was thrown out in 2016 and 2014. It is wrong to apply a different set of standard now than you did in 2016 and 2014. And I'm concerned about election fraud and people attempting to vote twice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next.
Pam Ashling.
Hi, my name is Cam Ashling, and I'm a local community leader here. I'm president of Georgia Advancing Progress PAC. And our team of college students have been canvassing this rejected list of voters from Gwinnett County. I've got a list of, like, I couldn't believe it, over 900 plus voters who've been rejected because of small, immaterial omissions, like they forgot to check the box. So I had grandmas who can't see well and they forgot to check the oath box. We got people who forgot to sign the back when they send in their ballot. We have people who put the date instead of their birthday. And all these small little issues shouldn't permanently disenfranchise people, you know. And I wear this red slash to kind of to commemorate all the people who died in this fight for our right to vote. And I don't want you all to just throw away people's vote because of small little administrative errors. You know, we're bigger than this. I grew up here. I went to Lilburn Middle, you know, Hopkins Elementary, Meadow Creek High School. I know Gwinnett County is better than this. And there's not widespread voter fraud. You can't even get these people to take a picture with the Stacey Abrams sign. I've tried, you know, to get people to take a picture with the vote sign. They don't even want to be anywhere near anything, right? There's not widespread fraud. What you're doing is just suppressing eligible voters who have made a big attempt to go and vote here and rejecting them for very small little things. So I want to submit to you the list of people that we were able to contact, and it was very difficult for us to contact these people. Of all the people who have made an attempt now to correct the reason for their voter rejection, and you have an electronic copy of this, it's been sent to you. Of all the ID is included, you know, their name and address, that they swear that they are who they are. So I'm going to implore you to please accept these voters. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam, for all that hard work.
All right, next.
Wait a minute, I gotta get this.
No problem.
Okay. Next one is Ellie Poston. Poston.
She may be in the hallway.
We'll move to the next one.
Okay, Brian Marshall. These are fans. These are attorneys, counsels for people who are suing. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Good afternoon. This morning, the Federal District Court ruled that at least 358 absentee ballots had been unlawfully rejected by this board. So there's a lot of work still ahead, and I appreciate the board's work to delay the certification to ensure that this is done right. We would like to help you in that task. That's why we've requested a copy of every rejected absentee ballot envelope. We will send volunteers here to help you take photographs of them, under whatever circumstances, with your scan, whatever. We would like those pieces of paper so that we can assist you with the compliance of the court's order and ensure that there are not unnecessary disagreements about its meaning. We ask you also to fully implement the Secretary of State's instructions, which make clear that Georgia law allows all 901 ballots that you have slated for rejection to be counted. Every ballot should be counted under the law of Georgia as interpreted by the Secretary of State. We have also requested copies of every late absentee ballot. That is information that has not been posted in the Secretary of State's data. That is necessary, and we have a right to it as a campaign. Under our open records request, it should be produced immediately. Again, we are willing to provide volunteers to ensure that that information is made public as it ought to be. Two last points. Forsyth County is counting ballots differently. You need to talk to your colleagues in Forsyth County and make sure that you are not holding the voters of your county to different standards. That's required by the Equal Protection Clause and under Bush v. Gore. Finally, each of these voters that you are planning to reject their ballot, provisional or absentee, has a right under the Due Process Clause of the Constitution of this state and of this nation to an individualized hearing with fair notice that they have an opportunity to be heard on the facts of their case. You cannot adjudicate this in a back room without any opportunity for the person who owns this right to speak to you personally and tell them the facts of your case. If you do so, you will be in violation of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Brian Marshall.
Brian
Brian Marshall. Okay, next.
Feroza Saeed.
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Fine, how are you?
Thank you for your work. I'm here because I'm an activist and an advocate. I've worked quite a bit to get the vote out in this election. To me, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, your vote should matter and it should count. I'm here to ask you guys to count every single last vote. I'm also here because I'm upset with how Annistown Elementary, Anderson Livesey, and Faith went down. They were primarily people of color, large lines out there. At my expense, me and my best friend went out and bought several $100s worth of food, water, snacks, donuts, and spent the morning giving out things so that people could stand in line. There were at times 4-hour votes in South Gwinnett. And I find it appalling that those issues occurred and that they weren't resolved or taken care of in a quick fashion. To me, waiting for 3 or 4 hours is a long time to cast your vote, and it should not happen again. So again, I'm here to ask you guys to make sure that every absentee and provisional ballot that's in front of you counts, and that we make sure that issues like what happened at those 3 locations don't happen moving forward, because that disenfranchises voters and keeps voters from wanting to go out and vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
John McLeod.
Don McLeod. I am the president of Canine Community Action Network Initiatives, and I'm also State House elect for District 105. This Gwinnett County is not in the spotlight for no reason. I've been coming to these meetings for the last 7 years, since 2011, and I know all of you. So we have had to pull you guys kicking and screaming to make sure you do things right in this county for the people. Even the very fact that we had a Sunday vote, and thank you, John, for being the one that did that tiebreaker. First off, 6 hours, and in the first hour of early voting on that Sunday, we voted, 350 people voted. And that was the highest number of voters in the first hour ever. Because there are people in this county that just cannot get to the polls like regular. They cannot get to your 9 to 5. They can't do the 12 hours. They need some extra time. This county, if you truly, and I've said this to the members of this board several times, if you truly believe in representative democracy like our Constitution requires, there should be none of this going on. You should be fined for what you need to get more people to vote, not less people. We've got to fine for signage to make sure that a polling location is identified. This has been too much. This is a fight. And everyone that's sitting here right now, know this. There's a meeting every third Tuesday of the month for this board. You need to be there. This is the nucleus of our democracy. It is about every single vote that matters. It doesn't matter the color, the creed. I'm a person who paid $680 to be a citizen of this country. And I take my vote very seriously. And I think everybody on this board needs to be fighting for the vote, not just try to suppress the vote. And I urge all of you to make sure that every vote gets counted in the state of Georgia, in Gwinnett County, and every county, 159 of them? Yeah. They all need to be counted. That's right. That's all I'm asking you for.
Thank you. Next.
We had an Ellie Poston earlier. Is she back in the room? If not, we're going to skip over her. She is? Okay.
Hi, my name is Ellie Poston. I'm counsel to the Bordeaux campaign, and we fully expect that the vast majority of provisional ballots are going to be counted here today, but we've asked that the board cooperate to assist us in verifying that all eligible provisional votes that were cast are counted in compliance with Georgia and federal law. So given the recent litigation in Common Cause Georgia versus Kemp, we have grave concerns that first, voters whose registration information may not be fully updated with the Secretary of State may be wrongfully rejected due to the county not having the correct registration information for those voters. We are also concerned that voters who have their ballots marked as rejected for a signature mismatch on their ballot envelope, who have had the opportunity to come in and bring their ID. We're concerned that those voters will not have the correct opportunity to clear their ballot. And finally, we are interested in confirming, and we are entitled to confirm, that any votes that were cast on election day provisionally, because the voter didn't have an ID, that those voters have been given a full opportunity to cure their ballot and have their ballot counted under Georgia law. And because of these concerns, we are requesting that the county provide, we have been requesting for several weeks that the county provide us with information about which voters they intend to accept and which they intend to reject. And we continue to hold that the board should not certify the results until we've had a chance to review that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Ann LaFavor?
I'm gonna speak from back here.
Great.
And just for the record, my name is Lafla Moore, and
Okay,
that
thank
is
you.
a stickler with me. I'm a descendant of a slave, and my mother told me when I was younger, she stood in line all day for the right to vote. When Obama ran for president, President Obama, she said, I went to the front of the line for the right to vote. As an American black, not an African American, but as an American black, I must ask you, please grant these folks the right to vote. My ancestors died for this right. Again, I'm Ann, and I'm asking you guys, grant this vote, count these votes.
We have Penny Poole next.
Good afternoon. Penny Poole with the Gwinnett NAACP. I'm standing here not just for November 6, 2018, But I'm standing here because what has happened in Gwinnett County had not just begun this year. It has been systemic purging, 36,000 votes alone in Gwinnett. It has been voter suppression, and it has been this absentee ballot matching. If I can stand in a county who in 1911, the white citizens celebrated the public hanging in the square, this situation, this atmosphere has been instilled in this county, and the people of Gwinnett have been tyrannized. They have not been given due process. They have not been given the right to just express minimal rights that most citizens value. Gwinnett County needs to be held accountable for their disenfranchisement of all these citizens with the matching ballot, with the suppression. Gwinnett County needs to be held accountable for not letting citizens get information on the day of election, having intimidation by the police. We can go on and on the crimes that were against the citizens of Gwinnett for them wanting to cast a ballot. I too come from a history where our rights were denied, where people died. I am the great-granddaughter of a slave. So I can talk about what my family did and how my family cried when they had the first opportunity to vote. Again, I'm going to speak up for this room, whether you're black, yellow, brown, any disenfranchised person in this room needs to be extended the right to vote. Section 5 of the Civil Rights Act need to be reinserted because they cannot govern themselves. They are not being accountable. We want accountability in Gwinnett County. Thank you. Thank you.
Sharon Blackwood.
I'm going to speak from back here also.
That's fine.
Sharon Blackwood with the League of Women Voters. I'm a 43-year resident of Gwinnett County. I want to thank our election workers, our office here, for all of their hard work. They have worked very hard. I was in federal court 2 weeks ago in Judge May's courtroom, which I am in often. I am in there often for naturalization services. I heard the lawyer for Gwinnett County state in a federal courtroom that there is no constitutional right to vote absentee.
True.
And I was appalled. Because it indicates to me that the legal advice that the election board is getting from Gwinnett County is prejudiced. We have a right to vote however it is offered. And I was stunned. So I suggest that maybe a new team of lawyers might be in order.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing that I would like to say is that I would like to see this, thank you, election board go to the commissioners and ask for all the money you need in order to fund this office, to fund the polls, to pay the poll workers better, and to give them more extensive training.
Yes.
If you have the money you need, we can solve a lot of the problems. And I think that the commissioners will give that to you. So I hope you will be very generous in asking for the funding for the elections office. Thank you.
John Powers.
Good afternoon. My name is John Powers. I'm an attorney with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, a nonpartisan organization devoted to the protection of civil rights. And I want to be clear about the import of Judge May's order this morning. She said very clearly that all absentee ballots rejected on the basis of a missing or incorrect year of birth must be counted. And that's extremely important, and the public may not know this, but the Board of Elections has certain status reasons for why absentee ballots are rejected. And sometimes that includes year of birth, other times that includes a nebulous insufficient oath information category. And there's a lack of transparency about what insufficient oath information is and whether that includes people whose absentee ballots were rejected due to missing year of birth, people whose absentee ballots were rejected due to a signature mismatch. And this is critically important to make sure that the judge's order is implemented, that certain absentee ballots aren't given a second look while others remain in the trash can simply because of how they were initially categorized by an election official at the initial stage in the process.
30 seconds.
And to that end, we understand that you guys have a ton of work to do and a little time to do it. We also stand ready to assist in whatever capacity we can. I'll note that we made Georgia Open Records Act request for all absentee ballot envelopes cast by rejected voters, and our request to access that information was denied. We ask that you please provide those envelopes so that we can review and do our part to help you guys make sure that every eligible absentee vote is counted in this election. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Isabel Hidalgo.
Thank you for everything you do. I'm here because I know the people of Gwinnett County have been coming to you for months requesting hand-marked paper ballots who would have saved us a lot of problems now. At the end of the day, when the gentleman expresses our sacred right to vote, what I observed was an obstacle race to be able to vote. It is horrible what the people went through. I remember back in October 25th, I volunteered to start knocking on doors as we saw the Gwinnett County rejected ballot pile increase. I have visited more than 30 people. I made more than 1,000 calls. I have pictures with a lot of the people I visited, a lot of them seniors, bedridden, with language issues, that I promised them I will come and tell you here that I will fight for the right to vote. Seniors who took the time and they were absolutely taken aback that there was something wrong with their vote. The excuses like insufficient information, is something that they felt it was wrong. I am wondering if the mess in our voter rolls that caused so many delays also impacted the absentee ballots, and they were taken for files that have been somewhat manipulated or are in error. And I urge you to please revise why you have shut down so many people that have no other means to vote. You placed us at a crossroads when you did not go to paper ballots and we were forced to vote by paper. This is why you have so many people voting by mail. This is why a lot of the people disenfranchised are seniors, disabled, minorities who do not speak the language. The common denominator with these folks is nobody has notified them that their votes are in the trash. This is the common denominator. I spoke to 30 people yesterday. 30 of them were not being notified that you had done their votes in the trash, and I urge you not to do this. There are no lines, no glitches, no missing cords, no missing machines, no votes flipping to the Republican side when you use paper ballots. You need to give us paper ballots for the runoff election. It's paper and a scanner.
Michelle Cofer, C-O-F-E-R?
Yes, you pronounced it correctly.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Michelle W. Cofer. I am a citizen of Gwinnett County. I'm a voter here. On election day, I went to vote. My husband and I, assuming we were both registered in this county, only to find out, excuse me, my address change was not, I guess, processed for whatever reason. I asked the poll workers, should I go to Rockdale to vote, because that's where, the system was showing that I was registered, and they said no and offered me a provisional vote. First time ever I had a provisional vote, so I didn't think anything of it. The next day, I saw on Facebook, somebody said, if you voted provisionally, call this number. Make sure your vote counts. I called that number only to find out, well, it may or may not count. You need to go down to the county with your proof of residency and your ID, and I did that on the day after. I got here, I was told, and that's where I met some of these advocates, but I was told that day that because I am in the system as a Rockdale voter, that the vote would not count, and that is what concerns me. I'm not sure if this county or others are moving in the direction of Fulton and not counting provisional ballots at all, but I want my vote counted. I stood in line for 2 hours, to have a vote counted, and it doesn't matter to me which political party I vote for. I just want my vote counted, and I stand here, to represent all of those people who did not call the number to find out. Those people who did not come over here to ask and inquire, to follow up. I want my vote counted. I'm a provisional ballot voter this year for the very first time, and for all the other provisional voters, I think you definitely should consider everything that you heard here today, and that you should make all votes count, because all votes do matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Dana Bowers.
Coming from the other side.
Oh.
Hi. Hi, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to come in and have some time to speak publicly. I just want to thank Stephen. He was very helpful for me on election day. I just also want to let you know that I have submitted a, sorry, I've been very scatterbrained. So I've submitted a request for
Recanvass.
A recanvass, thank you. I have submitted a request for a recanvass with 2 other Gwinnett County voters. I am a lifelong Gwinnett County resident. I've moved out of the county a couple of times, only once out of the state. I'm a product of Gwinnett County schools and a very strong Gwinnett voter. And personally, I've had my own experience with the absentee ballot record and things that have happened with my voting experience, and that's actually not why I'm here today. Why I'm really here today is to represent all the voters that I organized, and I organized over 400 voters across the state to get a free ride to the polls. And all these people standing in line, waiting to vote, people that we sent to pick them up so they could actually get to vote, they need their votes counted, and many of them came out of Gwinnett County. Many of them are my friends and neighbors. So I just hope that we can honor the fact that I would like a recanvass for the precincts 196. I have submitted the request before the meeting, and I have submitted a second request that finalized the signatures of 2 of the people that are currently here in the meeting, the other Gwinnett County voters on that. So I just would like to, I would just like to address the board to say thank you, and I hope I can get confirmation that I will have a recanvass done in 196. Thank you.
Thank you.
Loretta Mirandola.
Can I just address for Karen Lavino? My name is Loretta Mirandola. I have lived in Lawrenceville since '85 and voted the entire time. I've also been, and I can say as an attorney and as a teacher of government for years, everyone has a right to vote. And I would tell my students that, and I think we just need to find the process to be able to do that. I thank Stephen Day, I thank Lynn Ledford and the people here. When I have called, they have answered and they have talked to me and given me information. But I've also done a lot of volunteering since September with people who were having issues with their registration and with voting, and it really is a mess. There's a lot going on. Found on election day, we were getting a lot of calls. People got there, they had voted there 2 years ago, they couldn't vote there again. They had, I helped a woman who could barely see and couldn't get out of her house, and I went and brought her another absentee after her first absentee was rejected and delivered it. It took her a week from the date it was issued. It was issued on the 29th. She didn't receive it in the mail until the 5th. She became my personal mission, but her nephew was able to actually deliver it the next day. But how many people aren't voting because of all these barriers? I know some of them are state imposed, and I know that the poll workers are trained. I ask that the training be increased, that it becomes better, and that, maybe this is me speaking as a teacher, there is a more of a simplified list there for the poll workers that they can look at. And I also would like a copy of, you to release copies of the rejected absentees. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Sawers.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just thank you for the opportunity to thank you guys for the job that you do. It sounds like you're under fire here. But I'm proud to be a #1 American citizen. And I've been paying taxes since I was 15 years old, about 55 years ago. And I appreciate people that say every vote should count. I believe every vote should count, but I believe every vote that's legal should count.
Of course.
And that's the issue that I'm concerned about as I see what's going on. I know that I've heard about Fulton County that they had 3,722 votes and about half of them were duplicates. And if you've seen some of that data, only 355 of them qualified. So that's my concern. And I don't know all the election laws that you guys are having to deal with, but I want to thank you for going through it and working and your service. And the last thing I'd like to say is, I know some people here talk about slavery. I was born a slave.
Oh my God.
You laughing? Well, I was born.
No.
Can I finish my? Am I allowed to finish?
Let it speak.
Nobody interrupted you.
I was born a slave to sin. But thank you, God, through Jesus Christ, I'm free at last, like Martin Luther King would say. Free at last, free at last. Thank God I'm free at last.
Thank you.
That is
Bruce Denson.
wow.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Let's make
In
it
25 years, I've never experienced any problem at the polls in Gwinnett County. So I
Said the white man.
America's a republic and not a democracy. All that separates the two is adherence to law. Democracy is unrestrained mob rule of any majority over every minority. It is two wolves in a lamb discussing what is for dinner. Legitimate laws protect rights. They do not bestow rights. Without adherence to law, there is no freedom. All that separates us from savagery is the rule of law. In this country, judges are not lawmakers. They must ensure laws are upheld. Without the supremacy of legitimate law, there is no justice. Without law, we are destined for anarchy. Look around. Therefore, every lawful vote lawfully cast must be counted. Every unlawful vote and every vote unlawfully cast must be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look at his face. The white man.
My name is Spencer Smith. I'm the campaign manager for Carolyn Bordeaux. I want to thank all of you. I've been working in this county for 13 months. I grew up in Midtown Atlanta. I'm not from Gwinnett, but I have fallen in love with Gwinnett County. I've knocked on thousands of doors here. I have seen the beauty of the diversity of the neighborhoods here. I have seen that there are no black neighborhoods or Asian neighborhoods or Latino neighborhoods. When you go door to door and house to house, it is the most beautiful picture of America I can fathom. And I can tell you right now that the eyes of the nation are on Gwinnett County. And they're staring at you and they are asking if you're going to do right by the voters of this county. I have met your staff and they're probably about being sick of me coming around here, but they are sweet and wonderful and helpful. And they're extremely competent. And y'all have a system in place which allows somebody to request an absentee ballot. And then your staff, your wonderful staff, which y'all praised, goes into the voter registration system and determines if this person is an eligible voter. And if they determine that they are, they put an absentee ballot in the mail and send it to them. Y'all are now taking the position that it is appropriate for Gwinnett County to reject absentee ballots that the person on the back has filled out the oath and put incorrect address
30 seconds.
on the application that you mailed to them. The federal court yesterday said that it is federal law that you cannot reject votes for insignificant details. All the Bordeaux campaign is asking is that the votes that are cast not be rejected for insignificant details, and that y'all do right by the beautiful people of Gwinnett County. Thank you all for your hard work, and please, we ask you to do the right thing.
I'm sorry?
Gabe Okoye. Okay, I was wondering. You were hiding behind the camera.
Good afternoon. I want to talk to you about something that not many people have talked about today. It has been established that all votes cast should count. But on November 6th, most of the problems that I observed happened in South Gwinnett, and it had to do with machines not working. My phone lit up the very minute I woke up, about 7:15. By the way, I happen to be the chairman of the Gwinnett Democratic Party. That's why my phone was lighting up. And when I got there, people were standing in line. Some were standing there for 4 hours, and it was because the machines weren't working. I asked, were the machines working before they were sent over there? The answer was yes. I guess something must have happened between the time they took the machines from here to those polling locations in South Gwinnett. Whatever happened, I don't know. Maybe it is time, whenever you get ready to deliver those machines, get a Republican on board and get a Democrat on board so they can guard the machines. All right? It is very, very important because something is suspicious that all the problems occurred in a Democratic enclave. We need to stop that. That is another form of voter disenfranchisement.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon Wood.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Sharon Wood, and I am a citizen of Gwinnett. I also had the honor of working on campaigns this year, including for the awesome recently elected Donna McLeod. And I also am a poll worker. And I know that the good people on this board, as well as the folks that work in the elections office and the folks that work at the polls, I know that these folks aren't evil and aren't people who are trying to oppress people, but they're part of a system that has some real problems, and they need to address them because the ultimate effect of what's happening is voter suppression. And so we're not saying that folks are purposely trying to keep minorities from voting, but that is the effect of what the systematic problems in this county are having. Poll workers are doing their best, but the training is lacking. I saw people turned away from the polls who shouldn't have been. I saw people given provisional ballots who should have been given a regular ballot. As I wasn't a poll manager, I didn't have the authority to do anything about it. But I did report those issues. I went door to door for the last few years working on these campaigns. And Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever these folks were, I told them, go vote. Your vote will count. It will mean something. I promise you. Just get out there and vote. And folks said, oh, it won't matter. It's too much trouble. It's too difficult. You know, and I assured them that their vote would count. Please make sure that I didn't lie to them. Thank you.
Mike Duval.
Hello.
So my name is Mike Duval. I was the Libertarian Party candidate for the Georgia Secretary of State. I'd like to thank all of you for serving on this board. Also, I'd like to thank your staff for all the hard work that you do. You've had, I think I just heard earlier, 3 Gwinnett County folks come before you and ask for a recanvass. I'm coming before you as a Libertarian Party candidate, requesting a recanvass of all memory cards for absentee mail ballots and a recanvass for memory cards for the following precincts. It's the Annistown Elementary School precinct and the Anderson Livesley Elementary School precinct. For those of you who are interested in the regulations that cover this, it's 183-1-12-.01. Again, I do appreciate the work that you're putting into this and the pressure that we're under in this particular election. One of the great things that's going to come out of this election is that we are shining a light on how everything works and how it's not working. And that's the good news. And we're, the state of Georgia is going to have to replace the voting machines within this next 3 years. The Safe Commission is a part of that. And I would really like to hear more people from the counties talk about what needs to be, how do we actually procure equipment? How do we actually need to be doing this? Because as someone who's into information technology, I'm having problems with how they're doing it now. The other thing is that I would like to tell folks to same-day voter registration, though it might sound like a lot harder to actually do it. If you had real-time ways of keeping track of who's on the voting list, it would be a lot easier, okay, than what you're trying to do, trying to keep up these lists up to date over time. Again, my name is Smythe Duval. I'd like to approach you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Blake Judkins.
Hi guys. I'm not a member of any fancy organization. I don't represent anybody but myself. I come here as an American citizen, as a citizen of Georgia. And it's my view that the right to vote isn't just American law. It's American values. I come here as a student of history. And anybody in here who knows anything about American history knows that one of the greatest pieces of legislation that's ever been enacted and signed into law was the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, one of the big things it accomplished was ending literacy tests across the nation, but specifically right here in Georgia. One thing that literacy tests are is a way of asking people what they know. What they can do, and my argument is that telling somebody that on this little sheet of paper, this is an actual size copy of an absentee ballot, that if they make one spelling mistake, if they make they miss one box on this tiny ballot, that their vote doesn't count is obscene. It is against American values. And I say this to you as somebody who voted for Smythe Duval. I didn't vote straight down the ticket one party or another.
30 seconds.
And so what I'm asking you to do is for any ballot that the intention is clear, who is a legal registered voter, their vote should be counted. And I don't think that that's a radical socialist notion. That's not an anti-democratic notion. That's an American notion.
That's right. Protect democracy.
Thank you.
Misty Autumn.
Hey you all. Thank you for listening to us today. My name is Misty. I'm a grassroots organizer for social and environmental justice. And I actually grew up in Gwinnett County, in Duluth, off Old Norcross Road. And I'm very proud to be a Georgian, proud to have grown up in Gwinnett County. And I grew up with all different people from all different backgrounds. I think a lot of us have here in Gwinnett County. I think this room is reflective of Gwinnett County. And I also really believe in democracy. as a sacred right. And all of the people that I grew up with from all different backgrounds, all different colors, I think each of them deserves to partake in democracy as well. These are my friends, my family, my loved ones, the people that I consider very close to me. And I know that it's people of color who are more affected by some of the irregularities that we've seen. And that really bothers me because they are my friends and family, even as a white person. And I know that we can do better. I know that voter fraud, you're more likely to be struck by lightning when partaking in voter fraud.
Very true.
You know, these efforts at suppression, they can keep happening, but something is changing in America. We're coming together, and I think that's consciousness. I'm a very spiritual person, excuse me. I think that's consciousness rising as we come together and see beyond our differences and notice the consciousness that's within all of us. So I ask you, please count every vote of all of my friends and family and loved ones that I've grown up with that are members of this county. We're all Americans. I personally went door to door going after the absentee ballots, trying to correct them. And America is beautiful, Gwinnett County is beautiful, and I would really love to see that diversity reflected when it comes to voting, where everyone gets their fair say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marilyn Mark.
Yes, I'll speak from back here if it's okay. I'm Marilyn Mars with Coalition for Good Governance. I appreciate you all listening to the many comprehensive comments that you've received about the November 6th election. I'm glad you will take them under consideration, but I also want to ask you to immediately address the issues in the pending election that you've got coming up in a few weeks, the December 4th runoffs and special elections. That election does not need to experience the same kind of problems that we had in this last one. And it's up to you guys. You have the full authority and the responsibility to make the changes that are required. Many of the people in this room came before you starting in July, August, September, October, and November, saying you need to be using paper ballots. Watch those poll books. They told you that the science, all of the federal agencies, all experts say hand-marked paper ballots is the right way to have a verifiable election. This board abdicated its responsibility to do the right thing and to allow people their constitutional rights to vote in a verifiable election. Look at the result. The result is an election in which no one can have confidence in the numbers that end up getting certified. There's no reason to repeat that disaster. And it's up to this board. You've got the authority to do it. And if you're unconvinced by the experts and you're unconvinced by the disastrous result that you just had, please look at Election Rule 183-1-12-.02, paren 6, paren B. It states that your DRE machines must be preserved. All of the data in the internal memory of the DRE machines must be preserved for 1 month after the November 6th election, meaning that you're going to need to use paper ballots or somehow find a way to do a complete copy of all of the DRE machines. Paper ballots needs to be the answer for December.
Yes, bravo, bravo, paper ballot, please.
Okay, Emily Leslie.
My name is Emily Leslie, and full disclosure, I was a candidate, but before that, I worked for the largest and oldest human rights organization in the world. I know what effective democracy looks like when I see it. So I want to just say a few things that I witnessed myself. And I wanted to highlight that a lack of education of poll workers actually makes it an impossibility for a poll worker to assist or effectively educate voters on election day or during early voting or at any time. That's voter suppression. Heavy law enforcement was at North Car. The behavior of the poll workers suggested they were uncomfortable and did not want to speak with the public. I experienced that numerous times. voters were hung up when they called for assistance, including myself and people that I know. Refusal to comply with election laws. That happened. I called here, and this is a nonpartisan issue, and when I called the hotline for help as well, they also participated in this by not taking calls and hanging up. So it's not just the Gwinnett Board of Elections or the polling places themselves. Failure to hold up the tenets of democracy by poll workers in this building. 3 times I asked for the list that is to be provided to anyone upon request of qualified write-in candidates, and I was denied that and sent to vote. Luckily, I knew my own name, so I was able to do that effectively. Had I not, I would not have been able to. Or if I did not have internet access beforehand. We all know that, and everyone here is aware that voter suppression is alive and well in Gwinnett County. We're all just sitting here talking about it, but everyone is aware. And I think that this is a really good example of active voter suppression, and we all need to make sure that we reach out to each other, reach into each other's communities, and make sure that we form solidarity. We are going to need it. We have a huge election coming up. We have runoffs, and it's clear what we need to do from here. Thanks.
Harvey Soto.
Hello everyone. I know you're all tired of me, and probably everyone wants to go home and eat. But this is important, so thank you for taking the time. You all know that I work for Galileo. I've been working with you all and speaking with you all for almost a year, 2 years now. And I just want to make it ultimately clear to please follow the directions Devin has down by the judges, and so we can count every single vote, regardless of what this person marked down, wherever they sent it in, whatever other insufficient information, which is really immaterial, has gone down. Their vote should be counted. People pay taxes. People work hard in this county. I know it because I live here. I used to live in Duluth. Now I live in Beaufort. I've seen all parts of Gwinnett, and these protections, these rights as an American citizen should be protected. That's all I'm saying. So please, let's do the right thing.
Thank you.